the good thing is that it's achievable. Like it's possible to really, you know, get off the medication and heal naturally. So stories like yours are very important.
Yes. It's possible to win the battles over, you know, against the Graves' disease. So
That's right.
it's beautiful.
Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good
You?
to see you.
It is such an honor. I have been following your account almost since the beginning, I feel like, and I've always been a big fan of your account and the information that you share, and really getting people to think outside of
Thank you.
just what they have, and especially coming from medical people, like that work in the medical field. I think that rejuvenates people's hopes, you know, that not all doctors or medical professionals are the same.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate.
We are so happy to meet you, and we also follow your page. Amazing content and wonderful tips, you know, especially for people that are having, you know, Graves' disease, and you know, it's very difficult to manage. So thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Happy to. And you know what, I try and keep my account positive and uplifting, because you know, there's ups and downs, but the state of your mind or your mindset is so important with healing, right? And just keeping a positive outlook in life in general is so important for healing. So thank you for saying so.
It's important to stay positive. Exactly. I mean, that's how you progress, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Totally agree. So let's start, and we would like to ask you at first, like how your story started, you know, how you felt at the beginning, how you discovered that you had problems with your thyroid gland. How did it happen?
Sure thing. So for me, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I had returned from a trip from China, and I had been exposed to some severe air pollution. And when I came back, I was actually really sick for about, I'm going to say about 6 to 8 weeks. And I was pretty stubborn about not taking antibiotics, because I had been antibiotic free for 10 years. But I was really struggling to recover. And within 2 or 3 months is when I noticed that it was difficult for me to breathe. And that's how it started. And the reason why I mentioned the sickness is because I do believe that a compromised immune system brought me to be more susceptible or vulnerable to an autoimmune disease. So one day I was just working out, you know, I was working out pretty religiously, and I couldn't catch my breath. And so I dismissed it, but then eventually I had to go see a doctor. And fortunately, I guess I'm one of the lucky ones when it comes to diagnosis, because I know for some people the average diagnosis.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah.
And it can take 2 years for some people to actually get the answer finally. Yeah. So for me, I was fortunate that they did a blood test, and immediately it showed that my thyroid levels were off. And so they sent me for further testing for my antibodies and some other testing. So that's how I was diagnosed.
But prior to that, you were okay, right? You didn't have any symptoms?
Just the breathing. Just my heart, you know, I was grasping for air, but I think because I caught it so early, because I would say maybe a month or 6 weeks after that, then everything else started to come out. So then the chronic fatigue, I could fall asleep on a dime. There was a point where I couldn't walk upstairs. Like I was so tired, like my legs were really weak. And, you know, and just, it took a little while for all the symptoms to come out.
And you are saying that it happened after you came with China, because the air pollution was high, right? So it contributed to it as well, right?
I think there's a connection.
You think that there is a connection?
Yeah.
Do you think it might have been also stress, like concerning, you know, China, crazy environment, like stressful environment? Do you think that your life was more stressful at the time also, or?
No, I think my stress was, I mean, I've I pride myself on taking good care of myself. I was eating really well. I was exercising often. So otherwise the exercise really helped me manage my stress before all this, and still does. But it sounds like I'm really blaming the air pollution, or it's not even the air pollution, rather than just being so sick and
of course.
wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what happened next? So thank God they diagnosed you pretty fast, which is great, because most women, you had shortness of breath, but other women tend to have like palpitations, and they go to the emergency and they tell them it's some problem with the gastrointestinal system, like some reflux. And it's horrible because, these symptoms of hyperthyroidism especially are very bad. So it's amazing they diagnosed you pretty fast. And what happened next?
So then the journey begins.
The journey begins.
So first, after the blood work came back from my family doctor, I was referred to an endocrinologist, and he's the one that actually did the official diagnosis of Graves' disease. Now I tell you, that's the day that I realized it was going to be harder than I thought. And I say that because the way he delivered the news was so nonchalant, and I was shocked, and he was unable to. He just said, "Looks like you have Graves' disease. Do you have any questions?"
Just like
he
that.
didn't care.
Just like that.
Okay, that's not really nice.
Yeah.
So I was devastated, and I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And I said, "Can I do anything to support my journey here, like in terms of health or eating, diet? Like, what can I do above and beyond just taking the prescription?" So he had prescribed Tapazole at the time, and I had actually asked, "Is there anything else I can do?" And he said, "No." And he said,
just wanted to get rid of the patient. And
it was, what, I dismiss it now, but at the time it was absolutely devastating.
Like, it's your problem, it's none of my problem. Like, you have this, that's it. Take the drug, bye. Like, why should
but of course it was devastating for you. I mean, you didn't even know back in time what was Graves' disease, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, so for you it was like something new, something shocking, something scary, and he delivered it like a blast. You have this and go home now.
It's true, and just the name too, Graves' disease. So imagine you've never heard it before, right? Like,
yeah, doesn't look nice. I had my sister looking at this like Graves' disease. What is this, Julia? It doesn't look like, because my sister doesn't do medicine. She doesn't know. It's like, this name doesn't look nice at all. So absolutely. I mean, we are laughing because we are positive, but the situation is dramatic.
Yeah, and I totally understand you, because the similar thing happened to actually me and Julia. Like when I was younger, I had problems just before the high school exams. I was very stressed, and I went to gastroenterologist, and he even scared me more, because he told me, "I suspect that you may be having Crohn's disease, and also the delivery of the message was very, very bad." So I really totally resonate with you, because the delivery is important, how we explain the patients certain things.
It's true, like sympathy, right? It's
exactly.
I get it. We're patient number 1,000 that they saw that, but to that person, you have to have a little bedside manner and some empathy for what you're doing.
Yes, exactly, empathy.
Yeah.
So after that, I started my medication, and he didn't prepare me either for other symptoms that could come up. So then the heart palpitations came up, and then the severe brain fog came up. And I mean, like, forgetting how to drive type of brain fog. So just being ill prepared. And, my background, like I research everything, just with my career and things that I do. But so of course I was going to tackle my health with the same way. So of course I went on the internet and tried to educate myself, and what was really important is also talking to other people with Graves' disease, because trying, our circle of people is so small compared to all the different conditions that are out there, right?
Yeah, so that's why it's beautiful what you're doing today, because like eventually the goal is to spread and share, like what happened to you, and many people can, can do similar thing as you, and like help basically. So little to know. And so
because it took you a lot of time, right, to research about these things, like to actually find the right answer, right?
It's true, because there's so much you have to research. First, you want to understand what is a thyroid.
Exactly. Like you didn't know.
Then you're trying to understand, then you're trying to understand what the different levels mean. Then you're researching the different diets. Then you're researching what are the statistics around Graves' disease. And
and then when it comes to immune system, I think it gets even crazier, because like immune system, like it's kind of already difficult to imagine, because when it's an organ somehow, you're like, okay, it's a thyroid, but then immune system, what is this, like what's happening? And this I get it, because we studied it, and we know that it's difficult. Like sometimes it's easier to visualize what you have to somehow like challenge, but when it's a not immune disease, it becomes harder. And also with the people around you, how did you manage, with the brain fog and, your, the fact that you forgot how to drive and all the other strange symptoms?
So I should say I stopped driving for sure.
You stopped driving.
Yeah, you know what? It was a bit of an adventure at the beginning, right? Because on top of that, I also eventually had thyroid eye disease, which he never mentioned as well. So my eyes got so bad that I couldn't even walk outside. They were so dry. So I couldn't drive for brain fog reasons, but also the severe dryness. And the more symptoms that pop up, the more you're forced to do more research, right? When you realize your doctor is sort of a limited resource.
Of course.
Great doctor, you only have access to them so much, right? And you're dealing with this every single day.
Yeah.
So we need a bigger community. So one of the first things I suggest to people who are recently diagnosed is build a team around you. You don't fully rely on just your doctor, right? You might want to talk to an optometrist. You might want to build a stronger relationship with your family doctor. You might want to reach out to a naturopath. And so the more resources that you have, the better. And I'd never actually been on Instagram before. I just, I went on and I saw all these stories, and I thought, I'm just gonna create a whatever account, and the more I started speaking to people, the less isolated and lonely and I felt. And
so you learned also a lot from people, right? From other people, not only from doctors. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's why creating community is important.
Yes, and especially when you have something like Graves' disease, where you're kind of limited in your capacity to be social. Like if you're exhausted, your eyes are in pain, you can't leave the house. Like that is so devastating. So take advantage of some of the virtual resources that are out there, not just Instagram, but I know there's Facebook groups. There's so many resources now in the digital time where you can be alone in your house all day long and not be able to shower or brush your teeth because you're so tired, but you can still talk to somebody, and
totally agree.
Talk to you too.
This is right.
It's easier in group. It's much easier. Like alone is difficult to move on.
True.
And so you said that you were healthy, so you had a healthy diet, but how do you think your diet changed with Graves?
It changed dramatically because at the same time, or within a couple months, so before my Graves diagnosis, I had IBS for 10 years, and it was also a struggle. It was getting worse at the same time. So while I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, I was also diagnosed with SIBO.
Sorry, I have carrots. Yeah, this is the beauty of coronavirus, no?
Zoo at home, basically.
Sorry, before my Graves' disease diagnosis, I was actually vegetarian. I wasn't eating wasn't eating eggs. I wasn't eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was doing that because my gastroenterologist said, you know, it might be easier on your system and this and that. But little did I know back then that the vegetarian foods I was eating weren't probably the best. Right now, I know a lot more about additives and citric acid and natural flavors and artificial flavors and filling and preservatives and all that stuff. So when I was diagnosed, I actually switched my diet because I had the SIBO too, and I started eating meat and I started eating eggs, which I know is so weird because there's a lot of articles out there that say you shouldn't eat eggs with Graves' disease. But there's so much conflicting information out there when it comes to diet. So, you know, for anyone listening, and maybe you too feel the same, diet is unique.
Yeah, diet is super important, and sometimes diet is also branding. You know, all of this keto and IAP, they are super good as a general guidelines, but then it's so subjective. In fact, it's a very good point that you say you had IBS before Graves, because the intestine is so important for the thyroid and everything. So once you heal that aspect of diet, you start to feel better. How is your IBS now? It's better. Is it better?
So it got extremely worse and worse. Yes.
Okay.
And
but on the vegetarian diet, or now it got worse over the time? How?
Well, so it's been 3 years, and my Graves' disease diagnosis, and over 10 years my IBS. At the time, I was about 6 months into my Graves' disease diagnosis, and the medication was doing enough so that between the two conditions, my IBS was actually worse. It was more crippling than my Graves' disease. So my naturopath at the time said, focus on your gut, focus on your SIBO, fix that first, like, because when you have more than one thing going on, you can't treat everything at once, right? It's really important to just focus on like the one thing that's really debilitating you.
And you fixed it, right? You fixed the gut condition.
I did. So I got rid of SIBO. It took, you know, I did all the traditional stuff, but eventually I got rid of it on my own about 7 months ago, and it's stayed gone. IBS I'm still working on, but I have come a long, long way, because I know ultimately, you know, your gut health affects everything else. And so on top of being sick from the air pollution, I know that compromised gut health from my IBS also made me susceptible to another autoimmune disease. So my diet in the last 3 years has changed a lot. And I truly believe anybody that says there's only one diet for Graves' disease, one diet for IBS, one diet for SIBO, I strongly disagree, because how can that be? We are all so different. We all have different intolerances. We all have different palates, and we all have different unique needs, even from a macro level, or you know. So, and I also.
But if you were to say, like, what type of eating more or less, you know, helped you the most to relieve the symptoms, to treat the IBS, like what kind of lifestyle would you recommend to someone listening?
I would say, first and foremost, something that can go across all diets, whole foods, obviously, as much as possible. I know that everybody says that, but really try. Like, I try an 80-20 split, because you want to still live a little. And, you know, if you're chronically ill, you can't always make fresh food 4 times a day, 3 times a day. Like, it's hard. So it's okay if you have to rely on some prepared foods. Just make sure that they're high quality and you're doing the best you can. Now, at the beginning, to categorize the type of diet that I had started with, and it was based on my naturopath's recommendation, it was paleo. And so what I did was I modified it a bit to kind of work with what I felt I could commit to. And so that was one of the first best things I could do, because I did feel relief right away from some IBS symptoms. And I also know that I was probably protein deficient. So the way I would describe my diet now, high protein, I wouldn't say low carb anymore. I would say, because I did limit fruit and veg for a long time, which was a big mistake. So now I eat fruit at least 4 times a day.
Mhm.
Vegetables are a bit of a struggle. As long as they're cooked, I seem to be okay. But so when I say lower carb, I mean a gluten-free,
Mhm.
soy-free. I have to be careful with grains, things like that. So I'm a
Mhm.
little bit more complex because of my IBS. But in terms of just Graves' disease, I would say whole foods as much as possible, less processed.
Mhm.
And for me, what really helped was focusing on protein, low sugar. Get rid of the sugar. Get rid
Okay.
of the caffeine.
And then what about the drug? So you started with Tapazole, and what happened then? How did it change?
Yeah, so my first endocrinologist, he basically said I would be on medication for the rest of my life. And I remember even back then, even in the middle of being devastated, I was like, no way, no way am I gonna have to take this every single day. I refuse to believe it. So, you know, my best advice to anybody is no matter what your specialist is or gastroenterologist, endocrinologist, good or bad, seek a second opinion. Especially if it's a bad experience. So I saw a second endocrinologist. He looked at everything and he's like, well, I think we should start weaning you off and start decreasing your medication. Really? Okay. And also one of the best things he did was monthly blood tests. So
Mhm.
I think in your first year of diagnosis, you
Mhm.
really need monthly blood tests. Like going
Mhm.
3 or 4 months is too long because you're
Too
adjusting
long.
medication. You don't know how full blown it's going to come out. So
Mhm.
in retrospect, I would have really pushed for
Mhm.
monthly blood tests back then.
Mhm.
Did you get off the medication like suddenly or gradually?
So I had done my own research, and I read
Okay.
that the slower you do it, the higher the success rate for remission. So
Okay.
I tried to look up as much information as I could around people who have achieved remission, and from what I could
Okay.
find, they weaned off their medication slowly. So
Mhm.
I would say it took me, I think my highest dose was maybe 10 milligrams of Tapazole. And at
Mhm.
the very end, which was maybe 6 months later, I was doing
Mhm.
2.5 every second day. So he
Mhm.
told me to just stop, but I said, I'm going to just take this easy. So I started doing it.
Yeah.
Less.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
agree with that approach.
We agree with this. Yeah, that's why
Okay,
we are asking. Mhm.
okay, great.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, slower the better. And then the other thing I
Yeah.
read was, and what can be tough when you have a thyroid disease is those that they say the closer you can stay within your body weight, like your weight range, the
Mhm.
better. They say from what I read anyways, large fluctuations in weight could affect you being pulled out of remission, right? It could get your thyroid going again. So I've been working my butt off trying to keep my weight, within
Keep your
range.
weight. Yeah. Mhm.
And it's hard. And, something that they never tell you is even when you're in remission, you still have to work just as hard to keep your body healthy. You
Of
still have
course.
symptoms, right? I still,
Mhm.
feel heart palpitations and, my weight is sometimes, I can't understand it. Sometimes the doctors can't
Mhm.
explain
Mhm.
it. So,
Mhm.
and I don't say that to sound, you'll still have this even if you achieve remission, because there's so much still to celebrate if you achieve remission.
Of
So,
course. Of
and at
course.
that point, you kind of already know that you're new normal, right? So at
Mhm.
the beginning, when I got heart palpitations, I was like, take me to the emergency room. There's something going on, like this is extreme. This is weird.
Mhm.
But now I'm just like, all right, I have heart palpitations. I'm going to really restrict my sugar, no
Mhm.
caffeine whatsoever,
Mhm.
make sure I de-stress, and eventually they go away. So it's learning what your new normal is too.
But now it happens more rarely, right? Than used to. I mean, heart palpitation, this symptoms, unwanted symptoms.
Yeah, I would say when they are activated, I can
Mhm.
explain why. So,
Okay.
Christmas time,
Okay.
there's
Okay.
food and treats.
Okay. So there is a trigger for this. It's not like it's okay. Okay. I get it.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
you know, up until 7 months ago when I was battling SIBO, I was always doing these protocols. So, you know, there were random times that, you know, I didn't know why I was getting heart palpitations, but I really would say it was likely because of the other treatments I was doing for my other condition. But ever since I got rid of SIBO, the only time I feel symptoms are when I can actually pinpoint why.
Of course. Okay. I wanted to ask how you treated SIBO. Which protocol was did you like the most? Helped you the most? Because you've mentioned that you've tried different protocols.
I tried all the traditional ones. So for anybody with that has SIBO, and I believe all the treatments out there have helped people. It's about finding which one works for you. So for me, I tried everything from a natural approach, right? Doing the antimicrobials like oregano. Yep, I tried that. It actually got worse.
It got worse,
It got worse. And then I tried prescription rifaximin, and that made me feel better, but my levels were exactly the same. So it didn't help reduce. Then I tried the elemental diet, and then I tried another round of a natural protocol. So I tried them all. You know, I had exhausted myself, and it got to the point where I started seeing all this stuff about celery juice and the medical medium, and to be honest, never really bought into it because I'm a logical person. I follow the research, I follow the science, but ultimately we got rid of it in the fastest amount of time, and I actually enjoyed it more because I was eating more foods. Was the medical medium approach, and I didn't do the whole thing like to the T because I couldn't eat all those foods sometimes or this or that, but I did the best I could, and it was gone in 8 weeks, and it's still gone 7 months later. So that's what worked for me, you know.
So the celery juice, you mean, right? It helped you.
So that's what you mean? I dipped my toe in the water. I tested the celery juice, and anybody with SIBO or IBS probably is definitely afraid of trying celery juice because it's high FODMAP, and we're taught to kind of be afraid of high FODMAP. But I was like, it's just celery juice, and oh my gosh, the first 2 weeks, I couldn't believe the die-off I was feeling and how much bloating had come down, and my IBS had improved. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try a couple other things. And I slowly did it. And I don't follow like his full, you know, belief system or approach, because I truly feel like we have to figure it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of that, and that is why healing can be so complicated, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all.
It has to be tailored, you know. So we have to stop the general approach and go into specific, because you have to heal the person. And also, you know, when it comes to IBS, there can be also, you know, the problem with the psychological approach also, you know, like you really need a sort of guide that helps you to understand what is the best approach. And what I find wonderful is that you didn't give up, you know, you were strongly motivated, and you try all the different approach without any prejudice. It's cool, you know. Some people don't have the same motivation, and then can be, you know, also for some limiting belief, you know. It's not just because they don't want to achieve remissions, because they don't know, they are scared. Doctors can even tell you have to remove the thyroid. So it's really beautiful that you know, we share this, and you share this with us, and we're really grateful. And you know, we will share it with many people. Probably some people will even contact you to ask you more questions, how you did it. So it's really beautiful. And we can see on your page that you keep changing supplements, right? Like you use different type of supplements. So this is also very nice, so people understand what to use in case of need. And so thank you for your work and helping the community. Really.
Oh, yeah. You honor me. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and yeah, you know what? Everything that you guys are doing, what's I mean, there's my side of it, but what you guys are doing is so much more important because of your medical background, right? I think it's important for people to see that there are people, you know, in the field that truly care, that also suffer with their own health issues, and also have compassion and are going out of their way. Like, you're doing this on top of everything else that you're trying to do just to get the information out there and for free, you know? So I really applaud accounts such as yours and human beings such as you both that do work like this and really help people that are stuck. And
Jennifer, this is what we are left with now. We have to stay strong together and, you know, keep doing everything that we can.
Yeah, especially that we understood, like you were saying, that it takes a lot of the time to figure out what actually works for you, and that's why we are making it, you know, as tailored as possible, because we understand that each of us is different. So there are, of course, certain methods, you know, different methods of healing, but I think that we can simplify it and understand who needs which method, you know. Like, for example, in your case, I think that if someone guided you at the beginning, probably it would be more it would be faster, you know, your healing. I think so. I don't know, I may be wrong.
You're 100% right. If I could go back in time, the whole it took me a year and a half to get off my medication from when I was diagnosed, but if somebody had told me earlier on to check my eyes, if somebody had told me earlier on to stop drinking caffeine, exactly. You know, like, regardless of your diet, anybody could be drinking coffee and not thinking anything of it. Most people do drink coffee, right? So yeah, going back and knowing what I know now, which is probably something we all say, I know I could have achieved remission even sooner, but that was the journey. I definitely learned a lot and still learning.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing that you did it on your own, but it really took you a lot of time, right? Like, how you mentioned that it happened 3 years ago, right? When you started your first visit in endocrinologist. So it was like 3 years journey, right? Total,
a year
or more?
Well, it's been 3 years since I've had since my diagnosis, but it took me just a year and a half to get off of
to learn. Okay.
So I don't know what the average length of time for people that it takes for them to do that, but that to me is, you know what, just achieving remission is.
No, of course it's a great success for you. I mean, I'm very happy that you did it. But like you said, you know, you're a very logical, smart person. So I think 1 year and a half, it's still like pretty amazing, you know. But not every woman can afford it, right? Because some people need help like right away, and I think a lot of endocrinologists, they don't help, and they are just wasting time, and it gets worse, you know, their symptoms, like they're having problems with eyes, etc. And they are very, you know, like I mean, they don't know what to do. So that's why it's important to guide someone, I think, from the beginning.
It's true. So if someone reaches out to me, and I get messages all the time, I was just diagnosed, I don't know what to do, I try so hard. I think I answer every single DM that comes through, because I think it's so important. I mean, how can I not somebody, if somebody had told me these things, it would have been a life changer. You know, that's for sure. So yeah, if somebody reaches out to me, I'm happy to talk about the first 5 things that I would have done if I had known what I know now.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool that you are, you know, giving back to the community, helping people.
Thank you. I'm trying, and it makes, you know what, it feels good because people help me along the way, right?
Of course.
So get forward.
People give back, right? Like they appreciate your help.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community.
Yeah. It's a beautiful community, and we want to, you know, make this community positive and motivated. That is actually happening. You know, it is possible to get in remission. You know, to choose the natural way. It is not compulsory to remove the thyroid. Many women are young when they're diagnosed, like you, and they want to have other children, and the doctors say to them, no, you cannot have children. You know. and that's horrible, as you can imagine. And so there is the psychological burden. So absolutely, we have to do this, because when one person improves, then the improvement of one is the improvements of many. So that's why.
Yeah, and mindset is very important. Like you said, like your mindset was very strong, right? Like you tried one thing, second thing, and you didn't stop at there. You know, you're kept trying different things until it works.
I'm pretty headstrong. Maybe it's my German background, but you know, like when I get
it's amazing. It's really amazing, because some women, you know, they feel stuck, and I think they need like a motivational push, you know. And it's good to listen to stories like yours, because in this way, I think it's easier for us, you know, to understand the mindset behind the success, you know.
Yeah, and you know, just to be fully honest and transparent, it's, you know, at the very beginning, and I'm not saying there aren't days that, you know, that are still difficult, but I think what's important is at the beginning, you know, it's hard to just take your diagnosis and be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this. You have to let yourself grieve. You have to let yourself be upset. You have to allow yourself to be devastated, right? And that's okay. Give it a good cry, get upset, talk to your family. Like that's part of it, right? And then once you get past that, then you're like, all right, now what? Now
what's the plan?
Yeah, what's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
So grieving is part of it.
But the good thing is that it's achievable. Like it's possible to really, you know, get off the medication and heal naturally. So stories like yours are very important.
Yes.
It's possible to win the battles over, you know, against the Graves' disease. So
that's right.
Beautiful. And we keep staying positive. And as you said, it's good that when you needed, you found that there was a community to help you. That made you feel good as well.
Of course, yeah.
So this is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gave such beautiful tips to people that have this, you know, these problems, and not just Graves, but also other like conditions with thyroid that are because these diseases, the problems that nobody sees them. You know, they are called the invisible diseases, right? So even like, because you stressed an important point, let it out. You don't feel well, just, you know, cry. Your family will understand. But sometimes not all women are lucky, so sometimes people don't understand. Okay, so thank you so much, Jennifer. We are going to you know, upload this story. You'll see it on our page. Feel free to share it if you want. If you want to have a copy, we can send you. So I mean, up to you. And we'll keep in touch.
All right, thank you. It was such a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you very much.
From following you, right? So to actually talk to you, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
but it's absolutely lovely.
Thank you.
If you need anything, write us.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Right. Stay safe.
Stay safe too. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.